is Elaine L again, and I'd like to talk a little bit about the Jolie Gentil Cozy Mystery Series. It came out in 2010, but I started working on the first book in 2003, I believe it was. We lived in Indiana, and it was the first time that I didn't have a full-time job. I still worked a lot, but it gave me time to really focus on developing a series. I worked on it, finished it, put it aside, added complexity, put it aside, thought about a traditional publisher, talked to a couple agents, and then decided, no, I need to do more with this series. So the first book was Appraisal for Murder, which sat around for quite a while I worked on Rekindling Motives, the second book. I finished it in 2006 or 7, and it wasn't published until 2010. I just had a really busy life and knew that they weren't ready for publication, so I kept going back to them, putting them aside, and the plots evolved. Not so much the basic essence of them, but the characters evolved a lot, became more complex. So I'm really glad that I did it that way. I also got lucky in that at the time that I finally did publish them, ebooks were in vogue and they were very popular. There weren't that many ebooks compared to now when there's how many tens of thousands published every day. So it was a lot of fun. Shortly after that, I published in 2011 the third book, which I'd been working on, When the Carney Comes to Town. And the funny thing is, this was supposed to be called Justice for Scoby, and she was supposed to solve Scoby's murder. Well, they end up dating and more than that eventually, so you can just tell how well I plot ahead. But Scoby became the favorite character of everyone, and I think it's because he had the most problems. Not problems dealing with her or others so much, but he'd had a tough life, and people relate to someone who evolves through the books, I think. So he's also very funny, and he's a poet. So the fourth book was Any Port in a Storm. I'm having the covers redone. This cover will look quite a bit like what it looked like before. The others are very different than the original covers. I'm working with an artist who's going to eventually do all of them. We've done 7 of them, I think. And that's been fun because I can actually think about the themes and how the books relate to each other, and it's a very flexible artist, so it's been terrific. You can see that I hadn't thought too much about themes because this was the 6th book, Behind the Walls. It was actually a finalist for the Chanticleer Mystery and Mayhem Awards, which I was really happy about, and it's probably one of my favorite covers. So this book may keep a lot of the components of that cover. But you can see the brown tones to Ground to a Halt. I mean, it's set in a coffee shop, so the artist, who's very good, did a great cover, but it doesn't really go with anything else. So that's kind of what we're working on. Eventually, we got around to book 10, Unexpected Resolution, and in it, Jolie and Scoby finally tie the knot. I don't think that's a huge surprise. If you start reading the books in order, you might think it might get there. But the book had a great surprise of its own in that I submitted it to Publishers Weekly for Book Life, their self-published section. I bought a little ad, and if you bought the ad, they would consider doing a review. So they send you a letter and they say, oh, you'll never get one. There's just so many of them. We hardly review any of them. And I got another letter, basically said, well, you've moved to the next level, but it'll never happen. Got a third letter. You've moved to the next letter, but it'll never happen. Finally get a 4th letter saying, well, we think we're going to review your book, but it's not guaranteed. So right about New Year's Eve, which is when this is set, I think that might be a reason that they reviewed it. It was reviewed, I think it was December 2018, and that was so much fun. It was a decent review, but it was also appropriately critical of a couple of things. So that was fun. I really enjoyed it. Then the final 2 books as of now are Underground and Ocean Alley, which has one of the older covers, and The Twain Does Meet, which is the newest book. It is about 10 months old. I'm working on the book that will follow it, and you might guess from the cover that someone else joins the family. In fact, a couple people did. So I really enjoy the series. I enjoy the fact that it can evolve, and yet there's still a lot of consistency among the characters. They're friends are their friends. They occasionally bring in new people, but I think it's the strength of the characters that has made the series so popular. So I appreciate you listening to me talking about Jolie Gentil and Scoby and Aunt Madge. Everybody loves Aunt Madge. And they also have a couple great pets. So I hope you get into the series yourself, and I look forward to your ideas. Thank you.